a number of reasons. First of all, my dad was a POW in World War II at a very young age. I was aware of that. I don't know that it was something that he sat down and told me one day, but I did know that it was something he talked about. Not very much, but he talked about. He would say things like the young men that had died that were in his unit, because he was an old guy for World War II. He was 30 years old when it came out. He talked about the time in the prison camp where, they weren't too mean to us, they just didn't feed us. I've also learned a lot about my father since he died from people that were in that unit with him and the stories that they've told me or they've put on record about him. But the thing that I learned the most from my father was to respect this nation and to cross the street to shake the hands of anyone that's in uniform, firefighters, police officers, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine, and to thank them. And for that gift, I am so happy to have that gift from him. The other thing that happened to me, and this was a little more recent, but it plays into all of the things that we've been talking about, and on this anniversary of September 11th coming tomorrow, it's extremely important that we remember this. I spoke to a guy by the name of Captain Jason Grayson yesterday on my radio program, and you guys may have heard it last night when the show replayed, but he was a dental technician. He was a specialist at the time that September 11th happened, and he was flown in from Arizona to go what was called to Port Mortuary at Dover. And that was where the remains of the people from the Pentagon and from Flight 77 were brought. And they were brought into a room to start off, and they were told, guys and gals, if you can't handle this, it's okay. No one's going to think any less of you if you go into this room and you can't handle what you see. And it was a room, a number of rooms. The first room had personal effects of the people from Flight 77 and from the Pentagon who had died. And they were things like pieces of pictures, charred wallets, pieces of jewelry, maybe a part of a shoe or a piece of clothing, maybe a ring. But they were things that were charred and that had come off of the bodies and the remains of what was next. And his first job was to take those things, try to figure out what belonged to who, try to figure out the name of the person that it might belong to with any kind of identification that they had, and then try to give that family of that person some sort of knowledge of who that person was. And it humbled him, because to see these pieces of things that were left after that horrible flight and that horrible crash in the Pentagon. And I remember asking him, what do you think about those people that still today try to say that it wasn't a plane that went into the Pentagon? And he said, I don't think very much of those people, because I know what I saw and I know what I had to do. So it was humbling to me to hear that story from him. And 10 years later, he and a lot of his friends and colleagues are in Afghanistan today continuing the war on terror. And they are fighting and sacrificing for us, and we need to fight and sacrifice for them here in this nation.